Welcome to the 2025 all-new third generation Nissan Leaf. Have they done enough with this car? Will the crossover styling work? Is there still too much hard plastic in the interior? Is the boot big enough? And of course, are you able to sit in the rear without banging your head against the roof? Stay with us, let's take a closer look and find out. 2025. Well, we didn't all get personal hoverboards, but we did get a brand new design Nissan Leaf. It's astonishing how fast design languages change these days, and when any car manufacturer tells you they're coming out with something that's completely new and revolutionary, you have to kind of suck in a very deep breath and ask, okay. But I really think that Nissan have done something that's actually quite special here. They genuinely have moved on with this design. It seems like only yesterday it was 2018 when they launched Generation 2. Really long-term viewers might remember me taking a first peek at that at the Geneva Motor Show back then. But it has dated not entirely brilliantly, and it's really nice to see so much fresh thinking happening here. Well, look at this front. I don't know if you've seen the recent review that Thomas did of the brand new Nissan Micra, but you can see that the styling wasn't only used there, but it's come through here and will go right throughout the family as well. This car has been reimagined for the new age. Yeah, okay, that sounds like a lot of marketing nonsense, but what does that actually mean in practical terms? Well, as you can see, the front is a lot more modern than the predecessor. Look at the way this light strip cuts right across the bonnet, and the front is much less dominant now. The reason for this is that they've managed to decrease the overhangs on the vehicle despite the battery load, and that means there's a lot more visual frontage to play with. So yes, you have the very standard approach now with the modern LED light array, but it's been utilized in a really unique way to give this car a completely fresh appearance. Sleek, stylish, modern. What do you think? 4 meters and 35 in length. Welcome to the first look at the crossover styling. Well, those clever Nissan chaps have managed to actually shave the length of this car overall, but not only that, they've also dramatically reduced the overhangs at the front and rear. So that is what makes this visually possible as a crossover styling. What do you think? Well, first impressions, I'd have to say I think it works really well. I'm a big fan of the very modern frontage, and we don't get let down at the side. The high gloss piano black is featured up here. The wheel arch, a very practical piece of equipment. It's a matte finish. Now, there are 4 different trim levels. This is the Evolve because we haven't seen the other 3. We're not capable of saying how this styling will be different on each trim level. Wheels are available in 18 or 19 inch with a variety of different finishes. These are solid alloys, as you can tell. They'll be high efficiency for electric performance. Really, the overriding feeling that you get from the side of this car is that it wants to be as sleek of a crossover as it can. So they've managed to achieve a drag coefficient on this of just 0.25, which is not a bad or mean achievement for a crossover. Visually, it still manages to look interesting enough to say that there's a bit more design happening here than just what a wind tunnel can produce when you use computers to put things together. I think the color combinations work really well. This super bold aquamarine is the color that we have today, but there are plenty of other colors coming to the lineup as well. 1.81 meters is the width of this car, so a little bit wider, a little bit shorter, a little bit wider. That obviously gives it the road stance that it needs for being a crossover. If you have a look at the rear light cluster, can you see it? Yes, we've got the 3-2 Nissan design baked in here. I think that's a nice touch. I don't know how you felt about the Micra's approach to lighting. That is, of course, the entry level of the Nissan lineup, but I wanted something with a bit more quality and resonance coming through on the Leaf, and here it is. I think that's great. Now, let me show you a little bit higher up. This is a really interesting detail. Nissan say that they decided to drop the rear wiper off this car because they claim the rake angle of this rear windshield means that you actually don't need one. I'm not completely convinced, but they did also explain that the rear wiper adds quite a lot to drag, so by leaving it off, the car is slightly more air efficient. So, not entirely a bad thing, but we'll have to wait to get it out onto the roads to see if that actually translates into just as good of a user experience. So taking the back as a whole, really nice to see what a great job they've done of integrating the same quality of design back here as in the front. Nothing about the rear of this car shouts at you as being different stylistically from everywhere else. This is a really well thought through piece of design. everything looks like it's supposed to be together. I don't know about you, but this definitely makes me want to take a look inside. Here you can see the new wing mirror, which, as you can imagine, had to be redesigned in order to make the drag coefficient work. So not only that, but also the door handles. Well, they say that they wanted to bring in flush door handles at price point for a lower car category. They're not the first to do it, but they are nicely finished. And pleasingly, if we touch them, they feel nice and solid. I don't know if you've seen any long-time reviews of Porsches, but one of my standard complaints is that for such a lovely car in all other respects, their door handles often let them down. This feels good when you put your hand through it. Does it feel good when you open the door? Ooh, you know what? It does. This does not feel like a cheap entry point. That feels solid, well built, and nice to use. And it makes a really satisfying noise as well. This is our first encounter with the materials used here. Well, it's very difficult to explain the texture of this, but the closest thing I can think of would be a suede-like quality. This is actually all fabric, but it's very textural. So not only does it have a very interesting aesthetic styling to it, but it feels nice as well. It's a very premium finish. Coming across, you can see the way that this design is continued visually, running straight through into the car. And look, it's our first look at the all-new steering wheel. Look, real buttons. Thank goodness for that. I wonder how they're going to feel to use. We'll find out in just a bit. But before that, let's take a look at these seats. Well, not only do these look very modern in keeping with the overall design of the car, but there's an interesting change here too. Have a look at this. You can see that Nissan have put driver's speakers in. Now, they're not available in every single one of the lineup. The reason they wanted to do this was to make sure that you, the driver, can carry out phone conversation, or you can listen to music without disturbing the other car passengers. It's a really nice idea. Not quite convinced it's going to work brilliantly, but I'm very happy to have it as an option. When Thomas last reviewed the 2018 Nissan Leaf, he described it as, and I quote, mediocre in a lot of ways. Ouch. Well, the main two reasons that he did that are, one, too many hard plastics. So I'm very keen to see how that's worked out in this interior, as we're going to be looking at this for quite some time. But number two, equally important, if you remember, a steering wheel that tilted but did not telescope. So I actually intentionally haven't looked at this detail yet. Let's find out. It's off. Thomas, are you watching? Here we go. There's your tilt. Are you ready? It telescopes. I'd love to tell Thomas they did that just for him. I don't know if they did, but that's a really nice addition. So let's talk about the seat first of all. Well, happily now we have that movable steering wheel, we can get ourselves into a really comfortable position. And that's good, because the seats are actually exactly what you would hope for. They're firm but supportive. The only thing that's not perfect is that they don't give you quite as much hold as you might like. But you're not going anywhere in this car at high speed, so I don't think that's the biggest problem in the world. They are firm, they feel well made, and the materials are nice and robust. They also give you the feeling that they'd be very easy to keep clean, which I really appreciate. Materials right throughout this car have been well thought through and considered. If we go back to the dash again, if Michelle can show you that lovely fabric feel and design running right the way through here. Now, again, relating back to the Micro, if you remember there, they'd made them a choice to put soft materials, soft touch material here, but hard touch everywhere you can touch. Interestingly, on the Leaf, they've done completely the opposite. This, very hard plastic, but if you come down here to where you touch this design, so on the armrest and the center console, soft touch in both places. Nice. Driver's displays, two 14.3-inch screens. That's standard right across the lineup unless you buy the very entrance level model, which comes with two 12-inch screens. As you can see, a massively improved update from its predecessor. If we have a look, you can see the standard display here. Let's take a look into maps and see how responsive the display is. Actually, that's pretty great. Nissan have gone to a lot of trouble to point out how integrated Android is, and in particular Google, with their services. So if you want to get the best out of the entertainment system, you want to be a Google Android user. So this then, standard display experience, take a look a little bit further down, and here we can see the cameras. Now the buttons here are nice, but they're a little bit on the shiny side. I think they're going to feel a little bit greasy after a bit of use. Cameras themselves nicely realized. You can cycle through different view angles, which give you the full range of different perspectives. And if you want to get back to your home screen, there's a large, Thomas is always telling me off for using the wrong finger, there's a large home icon directly in the middle. So coming down a little bit further on the dash, you can see here we've got the driving mode selectors, and this, every Nissan Leaf owner is familiar with this. This is the E-pedal button, so that allows you to do true one-pedal driving. It's gotten better and better all the time, so I'm really excited to find out just how good that is now. Now onto the steering wheel. Well, first thing to mention is it's a really comfortable wheel to hold. It's a nice piece of design. There is an awful lot happening in the center of this wheel. Broadly speaking, it's broken down into 4 clusters, or 3 you could say. Here you have the controls for the driver assistance systems. Over here on this side you have the controls for the 2 displays, and across the bottom on both sides you have the controls for the infotainment system. So although this might look like an awful lot to need to get hold of, it should be quite intuitive once you actually start using it. There are some nice touches that make it even easier too. As you'll be aware, we have 2 display screens. Now if I want to make changes to them, as you can see, I have a very helpful, straightforward and easy to change navigation point here that tells me if I'm adjusting the right screen or the left one. In the middle here we have a very simple jog wheel, which allows us to get to where we're going in a very straightforward way. This one's going to split some viewers, I think. It depends whether you prefer style over substance, but you can see in the Nissan Leaf what they've prioritized is going for practicality. So this is not visually wildly exciting, and it certainly isn't massively innovative. It's just 2 standard size cup holders, but it is straightforward, simple, not fussy, easy to keep clean, and I guess that is what a lot of people would want and expect from the Nissan Leaf. Coming a bit further up, we get slightly more design options. Now we do get 2 USB-C charge points, but the story doesn't end there. Here we lift up the armrest. You can see there is a bay for inductive charging as well. It's got a nice non-slip rubber matting base, but, and this is an important but, it is not ventilated. So if your phone's prone to overheating, probably not going to want to leave it there. Pretty decent storage area. There's not a huge amount of room here, but for all of your bits and pieces, I think that's probably more than enough space, and it is nice and comfortable to rest your arm on. Well, don't worry, Thomas, we haven't completely forgotten you. They've done such a great job with the redesign and materials, but you can't win them all. Don't worry, we've still got plastic fantastic, nicely demonstrated in the glove box. Now, one of the coolest features of the new Leaf. They have completely rethought the sunroof. They obviously wanted to bring some premium into a slightly lower end vehicle, so this is something you're definitely going to be able to wow your neighbors with. Glass sunroof, not unique, not special, but look at this. If I push once, then you can see that I get a covering for the back, so the passengers don't get the glass that you can see here. Can you make that out, Michelle? It just says Leaf, we've got the logo there. If I push again, then we get total coverage, but we're not done. One more push and I have coverage in front and a bear behind, and as you can see, the Leaf logo now has completely inverted. One more push and we go back to completely open. Well, this is where the rubber hits the road. So crossover styling, better drag coefficient, but, well, would you believe it? I'm 5'10" or 178 centimeters, but I have particularly short legs and a very long torso. So as you look at me sitting back here, I'm more like a person of about 6'1". As you can see, I actually do have enough headroom. The back of this car is actually, I think, significantly more comfortable than the predecessor. Most notably so on first impressions with the seats. They feel really nice, as firm and supportive as the front seats do. And that's really appreciated. Nothing's worse than when you have a great front cabin experience and you get in the back and you're like, they stopped spending money. Everything back here resonates with the same quality, the same material choice, and the same comfort level that the front does. So, very happy to see that. Looking slightly further down, well, this is the top trim level, so I'm not quite so sure if this is going to resonate right throughout the line. But the same no frills, no messing around presentation in terms of where you put your things. Clean, easy to keep clean. Isofix clips, well, okay, maybe they could have done a little bit more with that, but I think the watchwords with Nissan are always, look, we're going to make it so it's easy to use, and you really do get that feeling. More charge points back here, which I appreciate. 2 more USB-C charge points, so less in the way of complaining children, and okay rear pockets. The material doesn't feel so great on the inside, and I have to be honest, if your kids are prone to sticking sweet wrappers down the back of this, you're definitely going to want to put a liner in it. Let's take a look in the back and see how we're doing for load space. I have to say, I'm not in love with that sound. I know the automatic tail lift is, let me do that again. Not in love with that. I would have liked something a little bit more discreet. But I tell you what I do like, and that is up to 437. That's a significant improvement on the predecessor. And you'd expect Nissan to do a good job of planning to give you additional features, and they have. Number one irritation with electric cars is always, yeah, but where do I put the charge cable? Well, look at this. We've got a segmented floor in the back of this thing, which means that you have space for the things that you want standardly in your boot, but at the same time, look at that. An extra additional, nicely separate area in which you can keep your charge cables. Obviously a handy feature, and if you want to keep things really separate, then you've got a nice little shopping bay back here, charging section over here, and in that way everything should stay tidy and organized. Now, obviously you're not only using the rear of this car with the seats up, let's pop them down and see what that looks like. Well, if you've owned Nissans throughout the years, you'll be aware that one of their design features is that they very, very often feature seats that don't fold flat. Well, that's not completely flat, but you have to say it's not bad. You could almost go camping in this and sleep in the back with a mattress. That's not bad at all. It does mean a significant increase in load space. It does make the car a lot more usable, and it doesn't come at a compromise of comfort for the rear. Let's take a look and see what's powering this thing. Well, first thing to note when you open up the engine bay is look at this. I really appreciate it where they put some sound deadening into cheaper cars. Obviously a little ironic on an electric car because no engine to deaden the sound of, but it does keep the vibrations down, and I appreciate that. Everything very nice and tidy and well organized in here. This is a completely redesigned motor for this generation of Leaf. Nissan say obviously that's delivering a lot more efficiency than its predecessor. I'm not completely convinced about that. They've got 2 new batteries, 52 kilowatt hours and 75 kilowatt hours. They have made a lot of efficiency improvements. They say up to 604 kilometer range. Well, that is maximum, and in fairness to Nissan, they do give you a number which is based on an average speed of 80 miles an hour or 130 kilometers per hour, which is a range of 330 kilometers. Charging, well, that is again a success story. It's not the best in class, but it certainly is very good compared to the predecessor. You're going to be able to charge up to about 417 kilometers of range in just 30 minutes of charging if you're using DC fast charging. Everything about the way that this car is designed and built is to make it usable. So it's not going to have the biggest battery. It's not going to have the longest range. It's not going to have the best performance. But it should, when you're considering making a purchase, have everything that is the best balance right across the board. And I'm really pleased with not only the new design touches that they brought to the exterior, but also the new efficiencies that they brought to how this car works. We take a look round at where the motor connects into the car for charging. Back at our friend the charging port, Well, they're all a little bit plastic, but I'm quite pleased with the way that that opens. Feels quite nice. This is V2L and V2G compliant, and what that means is you've got this big, beautiful battery here. You can also connect into it for a standard experience if you want to connect anything remotely. Two big features of that are, one, you can hook this thing up to the grid, so you can make the most of the car battery in terms of your home electric usage, but also you can easily use this as a power source, and that feature comes in particularly useful if you want to take it camping. Okay, so full cars on the table. I'm a bit of a sucker for the Nissan Leaf. It hasn't always been the attractive girl at the party, but it's always had a little bit of my heart. So I was always a bit nervous when they said they were going to redesign it. I actually think it's a huge hit. It's really modern, it's really stylish, and finally, Nissan have given us an interior that we can actually really like. I'm very keen to hear what you think.